Good morning. Just gonna get started here. Running a little late because you'll notice. Let's get rid of that here. I'm doing a test for our live stream in the truck now. We're set up to go on the road this summer, doing presentations and workshops in Indigenous communities across the country. So you never know, we might be in your neck of the woods coming up as we kind of go live to the communities that we support for climate adaptation, emergency management, and things like that. So to get right into our briefing this morning, if you need a copy of our briefing, it is always available on our app. You can download a copy of it right now at app.hazardscape.com, and you can download a Word copy for your leadership, your chief and council, whoever you might need it for. But we're going to start off as usual with the wildfire risk as of this morning. And a little bit of change since yesterday. You can really see where they're having that heat wave down in southern Ontario and into Quebec, that it's really shifted the fire danger from low getting into that moderate. And same with Atlantic Canada. They're going to continue to see some warm weather this week, dry weather that's going to continue to escalate their fire danger levels. And then even moving to the west, Ontario, Manitoba, starting to see some shifting in terms of their fire danger. And then you can see into Saskatchewan, Alberta, British Columbia, where they're at, Northwest Territories, Yukon. So there has been some warming trends. Like if we take a look at how things looked at the start of the week on Monday, you can just kind of see how things have been ebbing and flowing. And this map does get updated. So, for example, looking at today's map, this is as of 3:04 Central Time. So this is just a couple of hours old. And this dynamic does change quite quickly through the day, especially as we see the weather forecast shift and change, because even as of yesterday, weather was looking pretty good for the west, but right now we're going to get a little bit of rain that we were supposed to get on Sunday and Monday, especially in Alberta. But today it seems like we might get that rain. So central, southern Alberta kind of tapering off in that regard, but BC kind of ramping up as they start to dry up and get a little bit warmer. And then in terms of any sort of special weather alerts, we'll see if we can grab that one here. Weather alerts. I might have to sign into this one because I'm working off a new computer, but I'll let that load in the background to pull up all the Indigenous lands for the country. But we'll go over to maybe take a look at the temperatures as we get into this week. So this is live right now. You can see how, over in the east, it is a little bit warmer right now than the west. As we progress into today, definitely going to see some cooling that wasn't so much forecasted yesterday. It is shifting quite a bit, but still staying quite warm in southern Ontario, Quebec, Atlantic Canada. And then by the time we get even into tomorrow afternoon, you can see in the west where those cool temperatures stick around, but it's Atlantic Canada, Quebec, a bit of Ontario that's going to start warming up. Even oddly enough, like up that warmer Pacific air in off the coast, probably, if we go, let's just take a quick look here. If you kind of look at this map, you can see El Nino. that red, deep red color kind of at the Pacific Ocean line there, that's El Nino, and you're gonna probably start to see it creep north. And that's the really hot, warm weather that is headed our way. So as that warm weather kind of shifts northeast up into Canada's northwest coast, you can kind of see why all that warm weather is kind of funneling in and drying out the Northwest Territories. So really fascinating to watch El Nino kind of creep north as we go along in the summer. But yeah, right now, little bit, sorry, I had just the precipitation map on. This is the actual temperatures. But, by this afternoon, this is 12 p.m. today, you can see Fredericton, Halifax, New Brunswick, those provinces, Atlantic Canada, really, really quite hot. And with the fuel danger, the fire danger for them, like Fredericton's going to hit 28 today. So given the fine fuel moisture code for the province, they're just ripe for wildland fire starts. And we'll go back to our wildfire map in a little bit. But looking by Thursday, we're going to see temperatures in the later teens. And then I think we had forecasted for into Sunday. The weekend is still looking quite hot for Saskatoon, South Saskatchewan. So if we look at our fire risk map, you can see with that warm weather, Atlantic Canada is going to probably get into the very high fire danger by the weekend. And then even South Saskatchewan, maybe a little bit into Manitoba, Alberta, we're probably going to see, the fire risk escalate again as we come out of the long weekend where we saw some cooler temperatures. But yeah, that El Nino, you can see that it's really having an impact on the South United States. And as the world turns, and as we shift into the summer, that belt of really warm Pacific air is just going to move up north, and it's going to continue to create a very warm summer. Yeah, I got to sign in to this one because I'm on my laptop. So let me just do that because I want to be able to pull up and see if there's any special weather alerts. If we look at, let's go to new fire starts. So not looking from yesterday, fire starts, again, not too many. A couple in Saskatchewan here, it looks like on the 19th. Yesterday evening, there were a couple that are now kind of just out of control, but they're not quite big, at just under 1 hectare. This one in Manitoba showed up this morning. So some things to watch out for. These ones are just the last couple days from Ontario, and even a couple of new ones here. This one overnight in New Brunswick. Very interesting there. 2:30 in the morning, it was reported. This one in Halifax, that's a holdover from April. So I think there was a couple, these ones here are interesting. No, there was I thought I heard in the local news some just south of Edmonton, but I don't think they started up. These are all the lightning strikes from May. That one from yesterday afternoon. So we're starting to see fires pop up in areas, but nothing that is raging out of control yet. Most likely because in terms of, if we go to the fine fuel moisture code, we're starting to see fires pop up, but there's still quite a bit of area that is low to moderate fire risk. So fire crews are getting on things early. Maybe it could be because they're not overtaxed with their operations, so they're able to respond quickly. It could be even that local fire crews are a little bit more prepared with response to things that are happening sort of outside municipalities. The fire crews across the country have been doing a lot to prepare for this summer and the next few years. So that could start to be paying off and them being able to respond and get these newer fires under control. But we're also not at a point where they're probably overtaxed. So lucky there that we haven't had that major uprising of fires yet. But going into our full briefing, so we're still watching some of the flood risk that was occurring across Nelson House, Kashkuan First Nation. Their evacuees are returning home. Red Earth Creek Nation, Soul Lake Nation, Cree Nation, and Sturgeon Lake First Nation in Saskatchewan, they've been experiencing record flooding. And if we go over to the Google Flood Hub, we can take a look and see where that is impacting them still. So yeah, you can see might start to see things are starting to taper off in some of these water bodies, the creeks, the rivers. Looks pretty good. Things are starting to settle down. Lac La Biche area. Yeah, all the water, the water flows are starting to dampen down, probably with the snow melt is probably complete on the ground. I don't know, there's probably still going to be some runoff coming from the mountains, but it looks like even in those areas where you would see a little bit more of that runoff, things are well below normal. So that's good in terms of the flooding that's going on. But in terms of temperature, right now, this is where we're at across the country. By this afternoon, 3 p.m., looking across, 17 up in Northwest Territories, 18, 16, 20 in Kelowna. Nothing really of significance until we get down into Atlantic Canada. My ArcGIS map, let's get that signed in so I can pull up special weather statements. Let's go to this one. So we'll give that a minute to load. I want to just check and see if they've still got those heat warnings over in Atlantic Canada, which I'm sure they do. 39 long-term drinking water advisories remain in effect. Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs is calling for immediate First Nations-led action following the declaration of public health emergency over HIV. Federal Spring Economic Update. That's pretty common. So a lot of leftover stuff from the flooding that we saw around Pegus First Nation. Fire risk is kind of holding where it's been all week. 7 active fires burning Western Ontario near Manitoba border and Kenora. So those ones aren't reporting on here yet. We could go over to the other map here and take a look at active wildfires. So yeah, this one's a little bit more up to date. I don't know why the CIFC map is, because that's only picking up as of May 19th. So that one's a little bit behind. It's always like that. So this gives us a little bit more accurate of a picture. It's pretty good, but it's not picking up those other fires in Ontario. Okay, let's see here. What can we not get? My ArcGIS map does not want to work today. 7 fires are active in New Brunswick and Nova Scotia, with clusters near Moncton and Sussex. The Atlantic fire season is entering an active phase with warm. Northwest Territories reports 3 active fires in Northwest in the NWT, 2 of which are described as human-caused, and a human-caused fire in the South Slave region is under control. None of it, nothing yet. So yeah, there's still that heat warning for City of Toronto and surrounding. We're looking at winds of 110 kilometers an hour and hail up to quarter size expected. Infrastructure, public health alerts. Not much in the news cycle right now. Still have that rabies situation going on in Nunavik. Oh, and this one, the veterinary clinic is at risk of closing nearly 3 years after it opened. This is relevant to community food security and animal husbandry planning in the region. Interesting. So yeah, if you want to get a copy of this, you can go to app.hazardscape.com and you can track down this briefing, all of our key contacts and all of the sources for this. Again, you can also head over to the resources dashboard on the app and get those as well. So it doesn't look like my special weather statements map is going to come up, but maybe we can get it from somewhere else. So I think, let's go to, we'll go over here and see what we can get off weather. Here we go. So in terms of special weather statements, just those, it looks like that heat. Oh, that's a frost advisory. Kind of funny, they're just coming out of a heat event. There's the heat warning right there for Atlantic Canada, for Halifax area. 32 degrees in late May. So then we've got over here some more wind warning up in North New Brunswick. And then we've got a special weather statement for long duration late season snowfall with significant accumulations expected. So still getting some snow in Labrador, but in terms of special weather statements, nothing as of yet. So if we go to the fire weather index, pretty much not too much of significance. So we're holding steady in terms of the fire risk. Flood risk is reducing every day. Looking at the wind kind of warning that's coming up in the north there, you can see it's just kind of coming up about tomorrow afternoon. They're going to see that wind up near Port Burrell. So yeah, very, very different weather, obviously, in parts of Canada. But heading into Friday, it's going to be fairly nice. And then even getting into Monday, you can kind of see that hot weather creeping up into southern Manitoba. So I would say, heading into Sunday, Monday, that one into Tuesday, it looks like it's going to be quite warm. So we're going to see that fire risk really jump up. So that's going to be into kind of like May 26th, May 27th. That's going to be this between today and next week, a really good time for First Nations, Métis, Inuit, not so much Inuit because their fire risk is low, but especially First Nations and Métis, really start getting into, making sure you've got your preparedness planning completed. Communications would be really good right now to your members about the upcoming warm weather and the impact that that's going to have on the fire weather index leading into next week. You're going to want to continue watching for fire bans, educating the membership on safe fire safety, making sure that if people are going out hiking or hunting or whatever they might be doing, that if they are lighting fires, making sure that they're putting them out, and just being careful with motor vehicles and quads and equipment like that. So at this time, I want to say thank you to Kyle at All About Abatement. They are sponsoring us as we do these live situation briefings for Indigenous emergency management. They do asbestos, lead, mold removal and abatement, hazardous materials assessment on and off reserve, and interior demolitions. So All About Abatement is First Nations owned. Kyle from BC understands the importance of emergency and disaster management, especially for First Nations communities. So he's sponsoring us as we ramp up for the summer with these lives to bring information and news that Indigenous communities across the country can use. So if you're looking for disaster recovery preparedness, taking on a big project in terms of mold abatement, lead abatement, asbestos removal, anything like that, we can get you in contact with Kyle at All About Abatement, and they do very great work. And then we've also partnered with Premier Fire and Flood Restoration. They do a lot of work throughout the treaty lands and across Canada. And they've come up with a really great system for ensuring that they can handle traditional items, cultural items, very respectfully, and they can clean and restore those items through a very gentle process. And they work with Indigenous cultural liaisons, elders in the communities to make sure that traditional items and different pieces are from, especially from schools and your home, are treated respectfully and treated with dignity, especially if they've had exposure to fire, mold, or sewer backup during a flood. So thank you to Premier Fire and Flood. They're a Canadian-owned restoration company. Thank you to their sponsorship. They're making it possible for us to do these lives. They're making it possible for us to provide training to Indigenous communities in disaster and emergency management. And we really appreciate their support along with All About Abatement. So if you do have questions about disaster recovery, preparedness and planning, restoration, dealing with water leaks, dealing with mold, All About Abatement and Premier Fire and Flood Restoration are your key contacts, because we know that First Nations on reserve homes especially are already underfunded, and they are already they're not in a great state. And when people have to evacuate because of a fire or because of a flood, it doesn't improve the situation, especially if it's really warm and there's a lot of humidity following a flood, or if there's smoke contamination in a home. It doesn't take a lot of wildfire smoke to contaminate an on reserve home that's already, maybe in not great repair because of the Crown's underfunding. So Premier, they can do tape lift testing, things like that. And then All About Abatement can do the asbestos removal, especially if you're looking at contaminated attics with asbestos and vermiculite. So always something you want to check out and watch for there. Yeah, I don't think this disaster map came back. I'll take that off the board. But we do have those special weather alerts here if you're just tuning in, and we are kind of sticking around and watching the fire weather index across the country as it really starts to warm up by next week. So something to watch for and take care of as you go into this upcoming season. And always, if you have any comments or suggestions and you want to leave them, if you're not able to catch us live and you want to leave them um, on the comments for these recordings on YouTube or Facebook, please let us know what information you'd like, or what would be beneficial for you in these briefings, because we're always trying to make sure that we accommodate the communities that are most impacted by climate change. And I'll be on the road very, very soon, traveling to different communities to do workshops and presentations. So if you're interested in meeting, please get in touch at support@hazardscape.com, and I can be sure to reach out and we can figure something out. All right, that's it for today's briefing. We'll be back tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. Mountain Standard Time to give you the next tranche of daily information and news you can use for your Indigenous emergency management program. Take care.